On today's video, it's story time about JWM2, the Osiris League team. In this video, I want to tell you guys how the team came to be, how we got as far as we did, as well as talk about that HKL match, which we lost on Sunday, taking us out of the tournament in 3rd, 4th place. From there, give you guys a little bit of motivation to perhaps try to compete in your own team in Osiris League Season 3, which should come up sooner rather than later. So sit back, drop a like on the video, and let's go. Hey there YouTube, welcome back to Gekko Gaming. So Sunday was a tough day. We lost in Osiris League. JWM2 is out of the final, not going to be there. Instead, HKL, very rightfully so, are going up against JWM this Sunday. But I want to go back a little bit in time and tell you guys the story of how this team came to be. Before we start though, I'm a sponsored content creator by Rise of Kingdoms. If you enjoy the content, drop a like on it, subscribe to the channel, and all that good stuff. You know how it goes. This video is not going to be about like optimizations and strategies, tips and tricks and all that. That's coming after Osiris League ends. There's a ton of things that you guys want to know about that we did this season that you can implement to your own team to make it to the top tier in Osiris League. But let's go back a little bit. When I was approached by someone in JWM saying, listen, we want to make a second team to JWM, a little bit more competitive, want to get to the playoffs on Osiris League, are you in? I was like, sure, why not? What I didn't know is that what this team was going to be was kind of like a set of misfits, quote unquote. And by misfits, I don't mean like people not from JWM or people not liked or anything like that, but rather folks within JWM who did have the drive to be a competitive ARC team, but who didn't really make the cut to the top team, which was 30 players and another 15 reserves. The requirements to be in JWM main team are quite substantial. So we didn't meet these criteria, but there was a lot of willingness to and drive to win and willingness to learn, improve, and grow as a team. And so we did. First of all, massive credit has to go out to Dazai. Dazai was tasked with building up this team, and he picked 30 players from A to Z, knowing all their commanders, all their capabilities, who they are, what they are, and fitting them into specific roles that would fit our strategy. In Ark of Osiris, you have rally leaders, commanders, which would be captaining commanders, who are the folks who are captaining and garrisoning buildings. You have swarmers, you have rally fillers, you have gatherers, you have arc players, you have arc carriers, you have arc swarmers, you have so many different roles that you can fit within a team that Dazai had to figure out based on the commander availability that we had in the team, who was going to play what role. I was tasked early on as a rally leader since I was the Edward Yisongye person. That was the initial set of rallies we sent. We used to do a combination of archer and infantry rallies early on, with Julius leading infantry rallies. And from there, things changed a little bit as time went by. B-Bang ended up taking the role of a rally leader for archers, as I didn't have Tamaris at the time. He did. Edward Tamaris became a better pair, so forth and so on. As the matches began, we noticed a small trend that was JWM2 was placed as a top 32 seed. Now, in Kingdom 59, we also had IWM and BNW competing in Osiris League on top of JWM and JWM2. But out of these 4 teams, only JWM and JWM2 made it out to the playoffs. Throughout this time, it was very clear that our team was very unique for a couple of main reasons. First of all, it was 30 players plus some substitutions who wanted to do anything to win, in the sense that improving, taking feedback in, practicing consistently, changing roles, changing commanders, training troops, wasting speed ups. Everybody was committed to the victory of JWM2 above and beyond. I can tell you that I went from being a rally leader to a garrison captain to a rally filler to a garrison captain again. It was just nobody really cared what their role was, so long as they did have a role and they could play their part in getting the team to win. From there, our garrison wasn't crazy good. If you look at the HKL match, for example, which is playing in the background, At this stage of the game, we had 2 or 3 Attila Takeda rallies available, and I believe 2 Zetians available, and that's it. I think that, as a garrison commander, I was garrisoning buildings with Richard, Julius Caesar, the whole Osiris League. Ever since I was tasked to be the guy doing it, which was during the playoffs that's what we used to do. Zing would cavalry rally with his Attila Takeda, take the opposition's desert altar, and then I was the garrison captain there with a Richard Julius Caesar. And if you go take a peek back at our history, you can see that it was a very successful pair, and I'll tell you exactly why and how after Osiris League ends in a tips and tricks video that'll give you guys a lot of perspective onto how we made it to the playoffs. It went from that to taking feedback consistently. Players going from sending 2 gathering marches like I started to 1, to being able to communicate with each other, to pass on feedback, to pass each other. It was just such a great experience. And the craziest thing that you guys might not know about JWM2 is that we actually communicated in 2 different languages. Half of the team spoke Chinese, and by Chinese I mean a combination of between Mandarin and Cantonese. I don't know necessarily which of which, but half of the team talked that, and half of the team talked English. So imagine 30 people in a Discord room where it's like Chinese and English at the same time. And somehow we're able to fend off teams like UCS, NB2, DSP. I mean, it was just crazy. 96 RZ. It was a crazy scenario where we'd sit there and one side of the map was English speaking, one side of the map was Chinese speaking, and middle team was a combination of both. And there were people who bridged those gaps, but Dazai structured the team so well that the team that was the English speaking were completely fine with English and 100% talking English, and those in the Chinese side spoke Chinese, and it was just amazing. It was a crazy fun experience. To tell you that it wasn't hard, it was. It's really hard to try to get some communication out when someone else is speaking a lot of Chinese in the background and not just chit-chatting, passing information. But for you who don't know Chinese, and neither do I, it sounds like background noise, right? And it's kind of hard to be able to put that aside and listen to the English speakers who are trying to communicate at the same time. Personally, I loved it. I think it was one of the best things out of our team. The communication that happened in there, the multi-language situation was unbelievable. The problem was we didn't have enough commanders available. The bottom line is we did not have enough commanders available. We were the misfits per se. We're not the guys who have all the commanders, all the pairs, all the everything locked down. And while an individual might have, let's for example say a Guan Yu Leonidas, which let's pretend is an important march in Ark of Osiris, that certain individual might only have that march available that is good in Osiris League, but someone else might have 2 marches that are good, but not Guan and Leo. So the choice is, do we get Guan and Leo but give up on 2 marches, or do we give up on a Guan and Leo and then get 2 marches in? All these things got factored into Dazai's mastermind plan, and he came up with a set of players that could fit all the roles to the best of our abilities, even though that meant some individuals who were very strong within the team ended up being backups, ended up not making it into the team, or ended up just not having enough of an impact. And some folks managed to figure out how to have an impact even off the field, with some Overwatch folks watching and passing communication, to many other ways that the team as a whole worked to try to win. When we made it to the playoffs, IWM and BNW didn't. And this left us an opportunity to take some players from IWM, like Zing, like Life, DS as well came in afterwards, and reinforce our team with some more folks with better commanders that we didn't have available. At the time of the HKL match, the semifinals, JWM2 was rocking 3 Attila Takedas, which out of them, I believe only 2 rallied consistently. 3 Attila Takedas, 1 or 2 Zetians. We had 1 Artemisia, but that Artemisia was not real. It wasn't played, but it wasn't. It was a little bit of a weird situation. And we were rallying with like 1 Attila Takeda and a Archer rally instead of like 2 Attila Takedas, which is what everybody did. To give you guys a little bit of context, HKL hit us with, I believe, at least 7 or 8 Atella Takeda pairs, meaning 7 or 8 folks leading Atella Takeda rallies. And that's not even exaggerating. We're not going to go into HKL's strategy because they have the finals to play and all that. But if I show you guys a few of the reports, you'll really see the difference in the power between these two teams. We picked up a lot of folks with strength and abilities and communication and all that. I mean, I'll give you the example of Zing, someone who I had a little bit of a small tackle with when he and I were competing for barbarian camps. We ended up going from, you know, kind of like not understanding each other too well to really stepping up our gameplay. And I worked with him as I was the captain of the buildings he was taking out. And it was just such a good situation overall. The HKL match really showed how important commanders were. We got to a point where we didn't have the right commanders to do the right things. And it was just that. That's our side's issues, okay? Not saying that HKL didn't have their own strengths, which we'll go into in a moment, but we got to a point where when the match started, nervous levels were through the roofs. A few mistakes happened super early on. Very fundamental things didn't work out the way they did previously. And I don't blame any JWM2 member at all. The other way around, I think everybody did their best to maintain and try to stay alive. But as I mentioned in plenty of casts, once one team has both their hands on the wheel and are driving the car, it is very hard for the other team to get back into the match and try to take those hands off of the driver's wheel. And that's what happened to us. In the very early part, which you guys might have not seen in the cast because it took them a little bit to get into the match, HKL took our Sky Altar and actually got first occupation bonus on our Sky Altar. That is on the first 3 minutes of the match. It takes, on the 52nd minute, the building opens up. On the 49th, that building locked in, and they already had 750 points ahead of us and another 450 points less for us for having to take the building back. And from there, things just went... We did our best to try to maintain, but the mentality got a little bit hurt by that first hurdle. A lot of folks were starting to get discouraged, and it's part of the game. It's how it goes. JWM2 overall did an amazing job as far as I'm concerned, but we definitely ended up playing HKL's game rather than playing our own, and that was ultimately our defeat. They had some crazy strategy, crazy good strategy. I'm not going to go into it again to let them do their thing during the finals, but we'll talk about that as well in a future video. They had a lot of information. It was very clear they watched some of our previous matches through footage of casts and things like that. They've pinpointed exactly where our weaknesses and where our strengths were, and they played to our weaknesses, which worked out really, really well for them. A lot of this stuff I'll show you guys in a future video when we talk strategies and we talk tips and tricks and all that. I'm not shifting blame here, and I'm not taking credit away from HKL at all. We lost to ourselves as well as we lost to HKL. HKL found the weakness, found the cracks, and like I say in casts, once there's a little bit of a crack, the water goes in and splits it apart. That's how it goes. We cracked and they capitalized on it. And it was an amazing season overall. I want to give a big shout out to all my teammates in JWM2. There's a lot of internal things that we can go over if you guys want to. Leave me a comment down below if you want some more detailed explanation on how the team was built, on maybe we can get Dazai on a conversation, on an interview on how the team was built and how he did what he did. If that's something that interests you, let me know down below, and of course smash the like button so I know that you guys want this. The strategies and tips and tricks and all that will be revealed after Osiris League ends. JWM2 is not done just yet. We have Osiris Invitational coming up. We're super excited for it. We're already doing a little bit of practice for it. We already are gearing back up to do our best during Osiris League Invitational, and I'll take you guys along the way for the practice matches, for everything you need to know about Osiris Invitation that's coming up. There's going to be casts. There's going to be all that good stuff. So I'm sure you guys are going to enjoy that. I hope this video gave you a little bit of motivation to perhaps get your own team together. Understand that it's not a matter of having all the commanders, because we definitely didn't. It's a matter of having sound strategy, set roles, a lot of practice, and the willingness to end there. I'll tell you this. When we started off our campaign, we started saying if we end up top 16 is fantastic. And when we got there, we said maybe top 8. And then we got there, we're like, top 4? And it was just unbelievable. Some folks within JWM2 had said it from the beginning. We're casual players. We're going to do our 100% for sure, but I don't believe that we have the power, the commanders that it takes to get to the finals. And yet we almost did. And we did that through strategy. We did that through wanting to get there, through practicing weekly, through improving, giving each other feedback and talking through plays, and through adapting consistently. A final small thing I have for you guys is, as an example, in the, I believe it was UCS match, we ended up taking a 3rd arc like that. And at that point, I was like, Dazai, how come we're taking this arc? If we take this arc, there's a possibility for a 4th arc to show up. Maybe it's a better idea for us to delay the arc capture. And Dazai was like, okay, sure. And on the next match, we already implemented that. So it was just like that. It was players voiced their opinions and optimizations and what they think the team can do to improve. And the team said, okay, let's do it. And we adapted and we learned and we practiced and we got better at it. I'm very proud of every single JW2 member of this team. And hopefully I'll see you guys in the next season as well. But for now, I'm Gekko. I'm out of here. Thank you guys very much for watching this story time video. I hope you enjoyed enough to drop a like on the video, and I'll see you sooner rather than later. Take care. Peace.